What's up everyone, welcome back to another ladder story. Today we have a scan game. He is spawned here in the top left of Polypoid and he is playing against a Protoss with the alias Drunken Tiger. Now I couldn't imagine a better reason to pick a game between one of my favorite players, Scan, and a lower ranked Protoss than his name. Drunken Tiger just sounds interesting, to say the very least. So here we go again. Scans, which have been looking in really good shape. Nice compilation series done by CNSC on him recently with some ladder practice. And yeah, he did well in ASL 19. And lots of people know Scan from being a friend of Artos's stream. I featured him recently in a couple of games where he is doing really cool Valkyrie builds in Terran vs Zerg. So be excited to see what he has in store for us today when he is playing versus Protoss, who is, by the looks of things, going to be starting with a 12 Nexus, which when it's cross spawns, we're always led to believe, is a big problem. So let's see how Scan responds to that once he scouts. So yeah, man, there we go. We have our 12 Nexus and we are getting into what is going to be, hopefully, a pretty fun PvT. It is a Friday on the day of recording. It is the 13th of February today, and wow, what a week it has been. I won't bore you guys with all of the interesting details and things that have happened to me this week, but the one thing I will mention, which I was not expecting, was I got a letter that showed up in the mail to tell me that I was selected for jury duty. Now, I live in Australia, which is one of a handful of countries that use the jury system. Obviously, America, very well renowned for it. We've watched so many TV shows, where there are courtroom dramas and We the Jury, and you talk about the jury and all that sort of stuff. So to be selected for jury duty was actually quite unreal. But naturally, the thing that concerns me, of course, is that they pay you $40 a day for the first, I think, 2 weeks if you're involved in some sort of trial, and then $80 per day every day after that, and you can't work. So you have to tell your employer, yeah man, I can't work, you need to pay me even though I'm not working. And for someone like me who's a self-employed business owner, that's a bit of a problem, because if I don't work, my clients don't pay me. So I don't see myself doing jury duty. And I just wonder how many people are in that boat where, as much as they would like to fulfill their, I don't know what you would call it, civic duty, I guess, it's just not practical to do so. So a lot of my viewers are in the US and in Canada. I don't know if Canada has the jury system or not, but I'd be curious to know, how are US citizens compensated for when they need to do jury duty? Because it can be a massive financial problem, especially if you're involved in a trial that, spans over a number of months. Anyway, that's enough of that. Scan is going to, by the looks of things, last scout his opponent and see he's got an established Nexus and all of the things. Looks like Mr. Drunken Tiger has actually gotten away with the Nexus first and is rushing. Yeah, this is a pretty quick robo. Trying to get in here and get ourselves a couple of kills, which we do on a couple of probes. Very nicely done. We're sending a zealot across to do a little bit of harassment, but I think with the vultures out and the marines, probably not going to get a hell of a lot done. Here comes a goon. So we've got 2 goons and a zealot, and Scan is going to have to play smartly here, because if Protoss consolidates all his units, this could be a bit tricky to hold. It's going to be a bit of micro needed. Mine's about to finish up though, and once those do, that should be the beginning and the end of this little bit of harassment here. Okay, so mines are laid, and now would be a really good time to not get yourself in trouble. What is Scan making here? A Proxy Starport! Oh my god! So I did a Flash game against Best very recently, and Flash did this Proxy Starport, and now it looks like it's a thing. So Scan also does the Proxy Starport. Wow, okay, this is exciting. So this Proxy Starport is really getting a little bit of momentum. The pros are testing it out on the ladder with increasing frequency, and I would love to understand the theoretical grounding behind this. I think it obviously creates the opportunity for a drop, and I'm actually going to pay more attention to the tweak to the build order and the execution of this, so I can get a better appreciation of the theory behind it. So we are not making any units at all at this stage as scan. We're just laying so many mines that Protoss's only real pressure play can come with observers, which are now out, right? Now we do have speed vultures that are running around, and they are looking like they're possibly going to be pooling here. What are we making? We're making a dropship. Okay, so we're making a proxy Starport, I beg your pardon. Proxy Starport to do a drop. And I imagine the amount of damage that we do with this drop is the thing that is going to make this valid. This tells me, though, that this is happening so frequently that Protosses are scouting this, because why else would you make a pylon here, especially if you're a Protoss? You're expecting this to be your base, right? So this is purely a spotter. There's no other purpose for this. So this drunken tiger, this man knows his stuff. Alright, so we're clearing some mines. We need to get into this bunker quick fast, which we now do. And here comes our dropship, spotted by the pylon. Let's see how much damage he can get done anyway, though. Is he going to stop here? Yes, he is. So we have obtained very little by way of kills here. And we have sent in our 2 vultures here, and they have also achieved not much, right? So I reckon best case scenario, who got 5 probes with that harassment. Knowing that it was Proxy Starport, he's just sent his goons to do a run by because there's no tanks anywhere in sight. And now the first tanks do pop, and does pick off one of them, but it looks like this Dragoon's going to take one more shot. That's going to be the end of him. And we're kind of back to where we started. 48 SCVs plays 43 probes. The game is very even. When Flash did this against Best, he looked like he was in an incredibly strong position. Best then just basically macroed up off of 3 bases and marched across the map and killed him. So I don't know if this one is going to pan out differently, but we are making 3 factories behind this. And potentially looking to press and or expand. Protoss identifying that Terran's really going to have not much by way of units now to apply any pressure, deciding, okay, well, we'll expand ourselves, get 3 Nexi up and running, and get our worker count back on track. We have a shuttle, we have a support base, so Reavers is certainly the plan. Also getting shuttle speed with this. Scan getting academy, scanners, Charon boosters for Goliaths. So everything you would need to contest against shuttle type style play. Clearing off a few mines here with our Dragoons. And looks like he's preparing to take a 4th. He hasn't done it as of yet. Kills that probe pretty quickly. And will basically force the Protoss to send the 2 Dragoons here to come and clean this up. Doesn't actually even linger with his vultures. Gets back across the map. And here we go. We have a floating barracks with no friends. He's going to have to float this back. Siege mode is in play though, so I don't think Protoss is going to get too much done here. So does decide to pull back. Alrighty, so the Reaver with 2 Zealots has arrived. Let's see what it can get done. Goliath in play is really expecting this. Gets nothing out of that at all. He doesn't even drop the Reaver. Has decided to pounce here with his goons, but I don't think he's going to be able to trade efficiently with a tank on the high ground. So does decide to hightail it out of there. Not without firing off on this turret. And so 102 plays 93, equal on worker count, just about equal on base count, with 3 here. We don't have a command center though in the production tab as of yet, so Scan is sticking to 2 bases for the time being. Perhaps his plan is to move out, try and apply a bit of pressure and expand behind the pressure. Yeah, so this is him basically establishing his 3rd while catching the retreating dragoons there with a bit of a mind trap. That was very nicely done. This is an interesting fight. So we've got 6 dragoons versus 3 tanks and 3 Goliaths. Decent micro from our drunken tiger, but the reinforcing vultures are going to get enough critical mass to kill what remains here. And our supplies are even, and I think Scan is in a very, very strong position. I'd love to know in the comments what you guys thinking of this Proxy Starport build. It's a singular drop. It happened too when in the Flash game, and I'm not seeing the value and the theory in this yet. I'm also seeing, based on the build of Protos's, that this is happening so often and it's becoming quite scoutable. So I'd love to know your thoughts into how strong this is. Scan, by the way, is expanding to a 3rd and a 4th simultaneously. I think he's just backing his map control at this stage of the game, knowing that Protoss probably isn't going to be able to get up enough to kill him outright. So even if he can put a pressure on one of the 2 bases, he should be able to comfortably hold the other one. So it's probably worth a little bit of an inverted commas gamble, especially because the distance between where most of his units would be and these 2 bases is relatively short. So this one here, so it's really just this one here that would be vulnerable. And true as nuts, this is where it looks like he's going to go and pressure. Okay, so we are flying into the observer. We see the command center, and right up the door, our dragoons do run in, shooting up a hill. Always quite a comedic thing. Dropping in a Reaver. So this is the first time the Reaver is actually involved in any engagements. That Scarab is unfortunately deaded. That command center has been cancelled, and this base has been denied. So, as I mentioned, that was probably the only vulnerability, and to Protos's credit, really nicely scouted and very, very efficiently dealt with. However, Scan has moved his army out here to try and capture the retreating dragoons, predominantly with mines, but he's got a decent observer placement here, so fighting head-to-head against vultures is probably fine. But when Scan starts to involve some tanks in the game, then it's a very different kettle of fish. If we zoom out here and just look at where we are from a macro point of view, we've got 149 versus 144. More workers on the Protoss side, but as many bases on the Terran side, although he is back down to 3 bases now. And our Protoss has got himself 1, 2, 3, 4, with a 5th one on the way. Scan deciding to potentially sack it's not a massive amount of vultures here, but does clear out the probes. But the cannons are sufficient, so maybe not the best trade there. Debatable. Clearing more mines. So Scan, I think, is now probably in a position where he could retake this 4th. And I would, if I had to hazard a guess, I would say that that is his plan. Plenty of factories, plenty of macro, but he is mining out here, and mining out here pretty quickly. So if he doesn't establish a 4th soon, he is going to be in a bit of trouble. So what does our Protoss want to do? And what are his units? Like, where are his unit compositions evolving to? He's pretty much just got Reaver Tech. I see the Citadel now on the Templar Archive. So maybe he's going to go with the double robo. Yeah, there we go. We could see 2 shuttles in production. So he's going with a double robo High Templar Storm Drop style, which is the most sort of inverted commas standard higher level way to play. And looks like we are moving out to put some pressure on Scan. Once again, I think this Protoss wants to contest this 4th base. Floating in our command center, we've got a lot more protection here. We're waiting for the siege. We're waiting for the attack to come in. There's a lot of Scan here. I really like how he's positioned his tanks. He's got vultures that are going to soak up a lot of damage and body block for his tanks. So Protoss decides there is no good trade to be found there. Let me consider something else. His something else is just to expand like a madman. As we can see, he's expanding absolutely everywhere behind this. So the difference perhaps between a scan and an autosis in a scenario like this is how the Terran responds. I think that sometimes someone like autosis is guilty of not shutting down and responding to openings and timings as they present themselves. In this scenario, there's probably a narrow window where scan can move out and pretty much wreck our Protoss, because our Protoss has just been making bases, not making a heap of units. Scan has been focusing on unit production mainly, to the point where he's got about a 40 supply lead. So I think now he's just wanting to try and hunt down and smother the Protoss army. And once he does that, knocking down these bases will be an absolute piece of cake. So here it is. Here's the whole army. He's moved it across the map without a hesitation. Very swift, very efficient. So this base is going to go down. And happy to take the fight to Protoss here against the Potted Dragoons and a couple of sort of circling High Templars. That's no dramas at all. So just circling his army around, figuring out exactly how he wants to approach this. Meanwhile, Shuttle Man has arrived and dropped so many High Templars. Oh my god, he kills a stack of SCVs there. That was very, very nicely done. He's now stormed the command center for some reason. Problem with that though is Scan has got an army that needs to be dealt with. So yes, while he has denied that base, and that base could be critical if we go into late game, we won't go into late game if Scan just kills all your stuff, right? So that's where balancing the scales as Protoss becomes incredibly important. So we've only got 124 supply. We've got a lot of money, and admittedly we've got some units. We created an Archon here, but he's floated this up, he's tidied this up, and he can re-establish. So the damage that's actually been done there is quite minimal, and I think this supply gap is just insurmountable. If you lose your entire army as Protoss, the game is over, and it's just that simple. So this is a very, very good illustration of the basics of this matchup. So while Scan may have appeared to have a little bit of a deficit on the macroeconomic side of things, just his army control and trading efficiency and aggression was all he needed to polish him off quite convincingly. So this was a fun game here on Polypoint. Very, very good game. Thank you so much for joining me. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Scan, probably one of my favorite, if not favorite players. So always cool that he ladders as often as he does. And it was good to bring you another one of his ladder stories. I am on a mission to try and get to 1,000 subs before the end of the year. So if you are a regular viewer and you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And until next time, thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you soon.